This is the 12-inch MacBook. It's the first in a new line of laptops from Apple, separate from the MacBook Air and MacBook Pro. At 2 pounds, it's the lightest notebook Apple has ever made. It's the thinnest, too, measuring 13.5 millimeters at its thickest, tapering all the way down to 3.5 millimeters, with its aluminum enclosure, glass trackpad, and Retina display. Here, though, there's no plastic hinge around the back like on the MacBook Air, which means when it's closed, it looks kind of like an iPad. Speaking of the sort, this is the first time in years that Apple has offered a laptop in a shade other than silver. You can also get it in space gray, as pictured here, or even gold. What you need to understand is that Apple had to completely reimagine the design in order to build a laptop this thin. The keyboard is nearly 40% thinner than on previous MacBooks. In fact, at first glance, the flat buttons don't look like they'd be comfortable to type on. In fact, though, there's a lot going on beneath the surface. Namely, a new keyboard mechanism that makes these flat buttons surprisingly springy. Also, the keycaps themselves are larger and curvier than usual, so there's a pretty good chance that even if you're typing fast, you'll hit the key you meant to hit. Apple had to rethink the touchpad, too. What we have here is a new pressure-sensitive trackpad that responds differently depending on how much pressure you apply with your fingers. That means you can do things like preview files in Finder or fast-forward in QuickTime at 60 times the normal speed. And thanks to a public SDK, developers can work this feature into their own apps as well. So far, these tricks aren't actually that useful, but there's another benefit. This touchpad is thinner than a traditional one, making it well-suited for a machine this skinny. The only problem there, the touchpad doesn't have a button, just a haptic engine that simulates the feel of a button press. It's convincing, but it's also not quite as comfortable as the real thing. More importantly, though, a design this thin means Apple had to cut back on ports. There's just a standard headphone jack and a new pint-sized USB-C port. The benefit is that this smaller port saves space, and it's also reversible. There is no such thing as inserting a cable, quote-unquote, upside down. It's also versatile with support for DisplayPort and external monitors. One day, USB-C will be ubiquitous, but for now, it's fairly uncommon, which means it can be annoying to not be able to connect a standard USB device. Also annoying, an adapter for your old gadgets costs an extra $79. That's right, it's not even included in the box. But wait, there are still some more trade-offs. The new MacBook uses a lower power Intel Core M processor. It's not as powerful as a regular Core i5 chip, but it allowed Apple to build a laptop that's both thin and fanless. No fan noise here, but I have to warn you, the bottom side can run warm. On the bright side, the disk speeds are fast, as is the boot up time, just 7 seconds to the login screen. The battery life is also decent. It's on par with the 11-inch MacBook Air, even though the new Mac has a much sharper 2304 by 1440 display. The MacBook goes on sale April 10th, starting at $1299. As you can see, it's a high-end laptop with lots of promise, but it's not for everyone, at least not right now. Between the high price and the fact that there's just one USB-C port, it feels like an expensive novelty more than anything else. Much like the original MacBook Air, the new 12-inch MacBook is mainly for Mac diehards. Tangram
Smart Row has a singular purpose. It displays the number of rotations of the rope right in front of you using a strip of LEDs.